They all knew my husband was sleeping with my sister. At our beach house reunion, they toasted to modern love. I smiled, served drinks, laced subtly. Hours later, they awoke groggy, cuffed to pool chairs. My lawyer arrived. Ownership papers signed. Betray me once. Enjoy early retirement. From everything. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. My name is Caroline Matthews, and for 17 years, I was a marriage counselor. Can you believe that? I mean, the irony is thick enough to choke on. I spent my days, my entire career, helping other people navigate the darkest corners of their relationships. I listened to stories of deceit, of betrayal, of financial troubles, you name it. I taught them how to communicate, how to rebuild trust. I held their hands while they cried. I really thought I was good at it. I prided myself on it. I thought I could spot a lie a mile away. And all that time, my own marriage was crumbling right under my feet, and I was the last one to know. The whole thing, well, the end of it, anyway, it really started 3 months before my life as I knew it exploded. It was a Tuesday. I remember the air was just starting to get that crisp fall chill, but our house was warm. It was filled with people. I was hosting a dinner party, a big one. My husband, Mitchell, had just gotten a massive promotion at his law firm. He'd finally made partner. We were all supposed to be so proud. Or at least, I was. Our house was, well, it was beautiful. We'd worked hard for it. Hardwood floors, a big kitchen island that I'd designed myself, soft lighting. It was my sanctuary. And that night, it was packed. Mitchell's parents, Walter and Barbara, were there. His brother, Gregory, and his wife, Sharon. His sister, Diane, and her husband, Keith. Even his sweet, frail Aunt Helen, who always smelled like lavender. And, of course, my sister. My little sister, Audrey. I was buzzing around, making sure everyone's glass was full. I'd made a beef tenderloin. I'd stressed about it all day, and it came out perfectly, cooked just right. I remember Mitchell clinking his glass, that crystal ding silencing the chatter. He made a small, charming speech. He thanked everyone for coming. He thanked his bosses, who were also there. And then he looked at me, and he smiled that smile, the one that used to make my knees weak. And most of all, he said, I have to thank my amazing wife, Caroline. She's the rock. I couldn't do any of this without her. Everyone clapped. I felt my face flush, you know? That warm, proud feeling. I felt like the perfect wife, hosting the perfect party for my perfect husband. God, I was such a fool. The main course was done, the plates were cleared, and it was time for dessert. I'd made a cheesecake from scratch, my grandmother's recipe. The plates were piling up on the sideboard, so I gathered a stack to take back to the kitchen. I pushed through the swinging door, and the noise of the party just whooshed, muffled behind me. It was suddenly quiet. It was just me and the quiet hum of the dishwasher. I put the plates down by the sink. I was just reaching for the coffee machine, ready to get the next pot brewing, when I heard them whispering by the pantry. It was my in-laws, Barbara and Walter. Barbara's voice was so low, I almost missed it. Do you think she suspects anything? I froze. My hand was literally in the air, reaching for the coffee filters. I didn't breathe. My heart didn't just stop, it felt like it seized. Walter sighed. That heavy, impatient sound he always made when he thought Barbara was being dramatic. Mitchell says she's clueless, he whispered back, his voice a gravelly rumble. Too busy with her patients to notice. It's been going on for 6 months now, with her own sister. Her own sister. The words they didn't make sense. It was like they were speaking a foreign language. 6 months. Her own sister. The cheesecake platter on the counter next to me, the big, heavy ceramic one I only used for special occasions, it suddenly felt like it was moving. I watched, almost like I was outside my own body, as it started to slide. I guess my hand had bumped it when I froze. I saw the cherry topping start to ooze toward the edge, a thick, red drop. My other hand shot out, my nails scraping the porcelain, grabbing the rim just before it crashed to the floor. My knuckles went white. I leaned back against the cool marble countertop, trying to get air into my lungs. It wouldn't come. My world wasn't just spinning. It had shattered. It just completely fell apart, right there in my beautiful kitchen, with the smell of coffee and cheesecake in the air. My husband, Mitchell, and my sister, Audrey. 6 months. And my in-laws, they knew. They were whispering about it. At my party. In my home. I heard the pantry door rustle. The click of the handle. They were done. They were about to come out. I don't know how I did it. I truly don't. But 17 years of listening to people's darkest secrets, of sitting calmly while a husband confessed to an affair, or a wife admitted she'd emptied a bank account, it teaches you something. It teaches you how to build walls. It teaches you how to compartmentalize. I put on my face. My therapist mask. The one that's calm and understanding and completely blank. I turned around, forcing a smile, just as they stepped out. Barbara was clutching a box of sugar cubes. "Oh, there you are," I said, my voice sounding disgustingly cheerful in my own ears. "Could one of you grab the cream from the fridge? I'm just about to serve the coffee." Barbara's eyes darted away. She couldn't look at me. "Of course, dear." Walter just grunted and moved past me, heading back to the party. I picked up that heavy cheesecake platter. I carried it back into the dining room. I served dessert. I smiled. I asked people if they wanted decaf or regular. I served coffee. My hands were perfectly, absolutely steady. And all the while, my heart, it was just in 1,000 pieces on my kitchen floor. That night was the longest of my life. The party finally ended. It felt like hours, days. I remember smiling and hugging people at the door, my cheek aching from the fixed expression. I hugged Barbara, her expensive perfume making me want to gag. "Wonderful party, dear," she murmured. And then I hugged Audrey. My sister. She held on a second too long, her hair brushing my cheek. "Great party, sis," she whispered. "That cheesecake was amazing." I just patted her back. "I'm glad you liked it." I couldn't feel my own arms. When the last guest left, the silence in the house was deafening. It was just me and him. "That was great, hon," Mitchell said, coming up behind me and kissing my cheek. His lips felt cold, waxy. "You really outdid yourself." I pulled away, turning to face him. I looked at his face. The face I'd loved for almost 20 years. I was searching for something. A sign. Guilt. Anything. There was nothing. Just tired, post-party satisfaction. "I'm exhausted," I said, my voice flat. "I think I'll take a bath." "Good idea." "You deserve it," he said, loosening his tie. "I'm gonna shower off all this party gunk." "I'll be right up." I went upstairs. I walked into our master bathroom. I turned on the taps for the big soaking tub. I poured in bath salts, watched them dissolve. I did everything normally. I heard the whoosh of the shower starting in the adjoining master bathroom. He was in there. Safe. And then I walked back into our bedroom. His phone was on the nightstand. Charging. He never locked it. Why would he need to? He had the trusting wife, after all. The marriage counselor. The one who preached about privacy and trust. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type in the passcode. But I knew it. 0-9-1-8, our anniversary. How quaint. I opened his texts. My thumb hovered. I felt sick. Like I was about to jump off a building. I tapped on the search bar. Audrey. There she was. Her name. With a little heart emoji next to it. An emoji I'd never seen before. I opened the thread. And I scrolled. And scrolled. And scrolled. It wasn't just 6 months. The whispers were wrong. It went back months and months. Further. A year. Maybe more. Miss you already. Can't wait for tonight. Last night was incredible. He's at a meeting. Can you talk? He's in a meeting? I thought, confused. Oh. He was texting her, about me, referring to me as her. No, wait. That was a text from him. No, that couldn't be right. I scrolled further, my head spinning. Mitchell, she's in a session. Can you talk? Audrey, miss you already. Last night was incredible. There it was. And then, the one that stopped my heart. It was from Audrey. Sent just 2 days ago. When can we tell her? I'm tired of sneaking around. I hate this. I sat down hard on the edge of our bed. The sound of the shower was just white noise. My sister. My own flesh and blood. The girl whose pigtails I used to braid. The girl who held my hand at our parents' funeral, the two of us, orphans, clinging to each other. The one who cried tears of joy as my maid of honor. The one I'd helped with her down payment for her condo, the one I'd paid for her to go back to school to get her design certificate. That night, in that moment, sitting on the bed we shared, I made a decision that would change everything. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the phone against the wall. I didn't march into that bathroom and confront him. My rage was, it was cold. It was heavy. It was silent. I carefully, methodically, selected her message thread. I held my thumb over the button. And I deleted it. I deleted all of it. Then I went to his call log. Her name was everywhere. I deleted those, too. I plugged the phone back in. I placed it exactly where I found it, screen down, at the perfect angle he always left it. I went into the bathroom, slipped out of my party dress, and got into the tub of now lukewarm water. I sat there in the dark, my knees pulled to my chest, and I just sat. I sat there until the water was ice cold and my skin was wrinkled like a prune. Mitchell came in, toweling his hair. Hey, you okay? You've been in there a while. I looked up. Just tired, I said. It was a long night. He never knew I had seen it. From that night on, I became a detective in my own life. It was a disgusting, corrosive feeling. I started noticing all the things I had been blind to before. All the little signs. It was like a switch had been flipped in my brain. Suddenly, I wasn't just a wife, I was an anthropologist, studying a tribe of people I thought I knew. I started to see it everywhere. I remembered how Sharon, my sister-in-law, would always touch my arm so sympathetically at family gatherings. We'd be at a Sunday brunch, and she'd come over, all concerned. How are you, Caroline? You just seem so busy. I used to think it was just small talk. Now I realized it was pity. She was looking at me like I was a sick puppy. And Keith and Diane, oh, that one made me sick. We were at a barbecue at their house. Mitchell volunteered to go pick up Audrey because her car was in the shop. "Oh, it's no trouble, she's practically on my way," he'd said, all helpful. And I saw it. Keith and Diane. They exchanged this quick, knowing glance. Just a flick of the eyes. But it was there. It said, "Here we go again." Poor, stupid Caroline. The worst, the absolute worst, was at my niece's birthday party. Gregory and Sharon's daughter, Lily, was turning 5. I was running late. I'd been in back-to-back sessions all day, and I'd picked up the custom-ordered cake. It was one of those big, expensive ones, a princess castle. I was trying to balance it as I walked in the door. The living room was loud, full of screaming kids and balloons. I remember scanning the room for Mitchell, and I saw him. He was by the punch bowl. With Audrey. They weren't doing anything wrong. Not in a way you could call them out on. Not really. But they were standing too close. Way too close. Their shoulders were almost touching. And I watched as their fingers brushed when they both reached for cups. It wasn't an accident. It was intimate. And then I saw Aunt Helen. Sweet, frail Aunt Helen, who always sent me $5 in a birthday card. She was sitting in the big floral armchair. She was just watching them. Not with surprise. Not with horror. Just watching. With this deep, profound, bottomless sadness. When Aunt Helen saw me standing there, frozen in the doorway, holding this ridiculous pink castle cake, she looked away. Fast. A deep red flush colored her wrinkled cheeks. Shame. That's when I knew. It wasn't just his parents. It wasn't just his siblings. It was all of them. Gregory and Sharon. Keith and Diane. Even sweet Aunt Helen. My entire family-in-law. My own sister. All of them wrapped up in this dirty, shared secret. All of them watching me, the clueless, trusting wife, walk around with a kick me sign on my back. The humiliation, it was a physical thing. It felt hot. It settled deep in my stomach like a block of lead, and it just stayed there. I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt stupid. And I hate feeling stupid. I became obsessed. I needed more than just texts. I needed concrete, undeniable proof. I stopped feeling, or at least, I packed the feelings away in a little box, and I just started planning. I was methodical. I was a scientist. One Tuesday evening, Mitchell sent me that text. The classic. "Hey hon, going to be working late on the Turner case. Don't wait up." I texted back, "No problem, honey. Thanks for working so hard for us. Love you." Red heart the emoji, it felt like poison on my fingertips. But instead of getting into my pajamas and reading a book, I waited. I waited until 9 p.m. Then I put my shoes back on. I grabbed my car keys. I got in my car and I drove to his office building. The big glass tower downtown. I went into the parking garage. I drove to his floor. P3. Spot 72. He'd parked there for 10 years. It was empty. I just sat there for a minute, the car idling, staring at the empty, oil-stained patch of concrete. He's not here. On a hunch, a sick, twisted, awful hunch. I put the car in drive and I headed across town. I drove past Audrey's condo building. It was a nice place, the one I'd helped her get the down payment for. And there it was. His black BMW. Sitting right there in a visitor spot, shining under the ugly yellow streetlights. I didn't get out. I didn't key the car. I didn't storm up there and bang on the door. What was the point? To have them open it in their bathrobes? To have another secret to keep? No. I just nodded. There it is. I drove home. The drive was quiet. I didn't even turn on the radio. I went to the kitchen, opened that expensive bottle of wine we'd been saving for a special occasion, and poured myself a very large glass. I sat at my kitchen island, the same place I'd stood when my world fell apart, and I began to really plan. The next week, I was putting away Mitchell's dry cleaning. A new, awful little habit I'd developed. Checking his pockets. Going through his things. I felt dirty. But I couldn't stop. And there, in the inside pocket of his favorite suit jacket, folded small, I found them. Hotel receipts. The harbor view downtown. A very nice hotel. 3 different dates. All nights he'd worked late. I opened them. Room service charges. For 2. Champagne. Strawberries. Chocolate-covered cherries. Audrey's favorites. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. I just felt cold. I folded the receipts neatly and put them in a locked drawer in my desk. My evidence file was growing. That very night, Mitchell came home from work, all smiles. He was mixing a drink in the kitchen. "Hey," he said, and I noticed it then, he wasn't quite meeting my eyes. He'd been doing that a lot lately. Mom called today. She had an idea. "Oh," I said, sipping my wine. I kept my voice light, breezy. "Yeah, she was thinking, it's been so long since we've all been together. Maybe we should have a big family reunion. At the beach house. Next month." He paused, swirling the ice in his glass, waiting for my reaction. "Everyone's coming," he said, just a little too quickly. "Even Audrey." I watched him carefully over the rim of my glass. I held his gaze. He looked away first. And then I smiled. My brightest, wifely smile. "That," I said, "sounds wonderful. It's been way too long. What a great idea." The relief that washed over his face it was disgusting. It was palpable. He genuinely thought I was that stupid. He hadn't expected me to agree so readily. I was thinking, I continued, setting my glass down, we could host it properly. Not just hot dogs and burgers. Good food. I could make signature cocktails. Really make it special. He smiled, that big, fake smile, and reached for my hand across the island. "You're the best, Caroline. You know that?" I let him hold my hand. His skin felt like a stranger's. "Not many wives," he said, shaking his head in mock wonder, "would be so enthusiastic about hosting their entire in-laws for a whole weekend." I smiled back, squeezing his hand. "If only you knew," I thought, "what I'm actually enthusiastic about." The very next day, I made a phone call. Not to a friend. Not to my sister. Not to a therapist. I called Arthur Levinson. Arthur was a former client of mine. A very high-powered, very discreet lawyer who specialized in, let's just say he specialized in property law and very, very contentious divorce cases. He owed me one. I'd helped him through his own ugly split, and he'd come out on top. We met for coffee. Not at any of our usual places. We went to a small, greasy spoon diner across town where no one would recognize either of us. The coffee tasted like burnt tires. I sat across from him in a cracked vinyl booth. And I laid it all out. The affair. The family. The texts. The hotel receipts. And then, I told him my plan. He just listened. He didn't interrupt. He just stirred his terrible coffee, clink, 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 not saying a word. When I was finished, the only sound was the clatter of dishes from the kitchen. He finally looked up. His face was unreadable. "What you're describing, Caroline," he said slowly, "is unusual." He took a sip of coffee and winced. "But it is technically legal." "Good," I said. "That's all I needed to know." "I can have the papers drawn up within the week," he said, pushing his cup away. "I'll need a full list of assets." My plan didn't stop there. My next visit was to my doctor. Dr. Albright. I'd been seeing her for years. "Caroline, you look stressed," she said, peering at me over her glasses. I lied, or, well, it wasn't a total lie. It's just Mitchell's new promotion. The new salary is great, but the hours are brutal. He's working late all the time. I'm not sleeping. I'm just wired, anxious all the time. Have you tried meditation? Chamomile tea? I've tried it all, Dr. Albright. I really just need something to help me shut my brain off. I leaned in. Here's the thing. I still enjoy a glass of wine at night to relax. I'd hate to have to give that up. Do you have anything, that wouldn't interact? Just something mild. She prescribed a mild sedative. It's very gentle, she warned, writing on her pad. But it will make you drowsy, especially with alcohol. So be very, very careful. Perfect, I said. I will. Just to be safe, I visited 2 other walk-in clinics in different towns over the next week. Paid cash. I told the same story. My husband's new job, so much stress, can't sleep. By the end of the week, I had 3 bottles of small, pale blue pills. More than enough. As the reunion weekend approached, my kitchen became a laboratory. I practiced. I ground the pills into a fine, tasteless powder. I practiced making cocktails. I needed to find combinations that would completely mask any bitterness. Citrus was the best. Margaritas. Mojitos. Anything with a strong, sharp flavor. I experimented with the doses. Not on people. But I tested it. I mixed a tiny, tiny amount into a drink for myself one night. Just to see. How long did it take? What did it feel like? Gradual drowsiness. A heavy, sleepy feeling. Perfect. At our regular Sunday brunch, yes, I still went. I had to keep up appearances. I watched them. I watched my in-laws, my brothers and sisters-in-law, Mitchell's aunt. I watched them all interact. Their silent, smiling complicity was everywhere. It was in every careful subject change when I walked into the room. Every knowing glance I now saw so clearly. Sharon squeezed my hand, her rings digging into my skin. I just can't wait for our beach weekend, she gushed. It'll be so good for all of us to be together. I smiled back, my warmest, most genuine therapist smile. Yes, it will, I said. I'm preparing something special. For everyone. The night before we left for the beach house, I packed. It was methodical. I packed my toiletries, and in a small, unmarked vitamin bottle, the fine, pale blue powder. I packed the legal documents Arthur had prepared, now in a crisp manila envelope, tucked into my laptop bag. And in the trunk of my car, hidden beneath the beach towels and the emergency kit, I packed 8 equal lengths of thin, strong, nylon rope. I also packed my best cocktail glasses. My most expensive liquor. Every good therapist knows, healing sometimes requires confrontation. And every betrayed wife knows, justice demands action. They all knew my husband was sleeping with my sister. Soon, they would all know exactly what happens when you betray Caroline Matthews. That group text, the one that started this whole thing, it came on a Wednesday morning. I was sitting at my kitchen island, the same damn island, sipping coffee and reviewing patient files. My phone buzzed. A group text from Barbara. Family reunion at the beach house next month. Been too long since we've all been together. Mitchell and Caroline, would you host? The place needs some family love. The beach house. Of course. It was Mitchell's grandfather's legacy to us. Our sanctuary. 3 bedrooms overlooking the Atlantic, a wraparound porch, a pool area secluded enough for private confessions. My heart was pounding. Before I could even think of a reply, the dings came, one after another, a cascade of betrayal. Audrey. Of course, Audrey was first. Count me in. I've missed our beach weekends. Red heart, red heart. Walter, great idea, honey. We're due for some family time. Gregory and Sharon, we're there. Need us to bring anything? Keith and Diane wouldn't miss it. Aunt Helen, these old bones could use some ocean air. I put my phone face down on the counter. My coffee was cold. The timing was, it was almost too perfect. Here was an opportunity. An opportunity to address everyone, all at once, in a controlled environment. My controlled environment. Mitchell came downstairs, hair still damp from his shower. Did you see Mom's text about the beach house? I nodded, watching him. I did. What do you think? He busied himself at the coffee pot, wouldn't look at me. I think we should do it. His enthusiasm seemed forced. Overeager. It'll be fun. Are you sure? I said, feigning reluctance. We haven't opened the house since last summer. It'll need cleaning, stocking. He came around the island, resting his hands on my shoulders. His hands. Come on, Caroline. It'll be fun. Having everyone together. I leaned into his touch. I remembered when his hands on my body didn't make my skin crawl. Including Audrey, I said. It wasn't a question. His fingers tensed. Just for a second. A tiny, micro-flinch. But I felt it. Of course. She's your sister. Everyone loves her. Especially you, I thought. All right, I said, turning to face him with my best, brightest smile. Let's do it. Next month works with my schedule. The relief that washed over his face was nauseating. Great. I'll tell Mom we're in. He kissed my forehead and left for work. I stayed at the island, my mind racing, possibilities unfolding like sharp, beautiful, dangerous origami. I picked up my phone and replied to the group text, we'd love to host. Mitchell and I will handle everything. Just bring yourselves and good energy. A few days later, Diane, Mitchell's sister, called. Hey! I know how much work hosting can be, she said, her voice all syrupy sweet. I'm running to Costco tomorrow, let me help. Let's go together and stock up. Perfect. We met 3 days later, pushing those giant, oversized, squeaky-wheeled carts through aisles of bulk goods. The lighting in that place is awful. Diane chattered on about her kids, about neighborhood gossip, about everything except the elephant trampling through our conversation. As we were comparing beach towels, should we get the blue stripes or the green, I seized my opportunity. Diane, I said, my voice casual, can I ask you something, professional? She looked up, surprised, a giant bag of pretzels in her hand. Oh. Of course, Caroline. Anything. I have this client. The classic, infallible therapist maneuver. She laughed nervously. Very therapist of you. Humor me, I smiled. This client, she suspects her husband is having an affair. She's seeing signs, catching whispers. But what's really hurting her, I said, folding a thick blue towel, is that their family seems to know. And no one's told her. Diane's face went pale. I'm not exaggerating. All the color just drained away. She got very, very busy examining the stitching on a towel. Oh. Wow. That's awful. Well, I mean, maybe they just don't want to hurt her. Or maybe they're protecting him, I countered gently. I tossed the towels in my cart. When does silence become complicity? Her hands were trembling slightly as she reached for a giant, 2-pack bottle of sunscreen. That's complicated, Caroline. I mean, how long has this been going on with your client? That's what she's trying to figure out, I said, moving us toward the snack aisle. I grabbed a huge box of goldfish. When did people start knowing? A month ago? 6 months? A year? She wonders who knew first. Diane swallowed hard. She looked trapped. I'd imagine it would be whoever was closest. To the husband. Or the other woman. Makes sense, I said. I moved us, decisively, toward the alcohol section. So, for the beach weekend. Do you think margaritas or mojitos? Oh, she said, sagging with relief. Both? Both is good. She seemed massively relieved by the subject change. Caroline, about your client. Let's get tequila and rum, I interrupted, hoisting the giant plastic bottles into the cart. Cover all our bases. By the time we checked out, I had my answer. Her nervous, fumbling, evasive responses confirmed it. The affair had been going on for a long time. And Keith had known first. He'd accidentally seen texts on Mitchell's phone during a golf outing. 9 months ago. And the knowledge had spread from there. Like a virus. A week before the trip, it happened. The final, undeniable, devastating proof. Mitchell was in the shower. He left his laptop open on his desk in our home office. We'd always shared passwords. Another sick, twisted irony of our transparent marriage. I sat down. My heart was a stone in my chest. I navigated to his email. I searched for Audrey's name. And there they were. Dozens of messages. Dating back 14 months. Not 6. Not 9. 14 months. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely click the mouse. I opened the most recent exchange. From 2 days earlier. Mitchell, everything's set for next weekend. Caroline's clueless about the real reason for the gathering. She's even planning signature cocktails. Audrey, are you sure this is the right time, Mitch? Everyone in one place feels risky. Mitchell, it's perfect. Mom's idea of a reunion gives us cover. After a few drinks, we'll tell her. Together. The family being there will keep her from making a scene. She cares too much about appearances. Keep me from making a scene. She cares too much about appearances. I felt the blood drain from my face. But I kept reading. Audrey, what about the house? Doesn't half of it belong to her? That's a huge asset. Mitchell, technically, yes. But Dad's looking into options. He thinks he found a loophole in the way his father structured the inheritance. Don't worry about that part. Just focus on us. I love you. Audrey, 1 more week, then no more hiding. I love you more than anything. I closed the laptop. Slowly. My veins weren't filled with blood. They were filled with ice. They were planning to ambush me, to announce their sordid relationship in front of the entire family, to use the family to manage my reaction. And Walter, my lawyer father-in-law, was actively helping them find a way to take my half of the beach house. My house. I picked up my phone. I didn't hesitate. I called Arthur. Arthur. It's Caroline. My voice was steady. It was terrifyingly steady. I need those papers by Thursday. And bring copies. Enough for everyone. Everyone? He sounded concerned. Caroline, are you sure about this approach? It's aggressive. Absolutely, I said. I want them ironclad. No loopholes. They will be, he paused. And the other part of your plan? Already handled, I said, glancing at the 3 little bottles hidden in my dresser drawer. Just be at the beach house. 9 p.m. Saturday. Use the service entrance. That evening, I smiled through dinner with Mitchell. We planned the menu for our big, happy family reunion. We should definitely do that seafood paella, he suggested, all earnestness. You know it's Audrey's favorite. That's a wonderful idea, honey, I said, refilling his wine. And I'll do those individual cocktails, paired to each person's taste. He looked impressed. Genuinely. You know what everyone likes? I smiled. Of course I do. I pay attention to the people I love. The last few days before the weekend passed in a blur of methodical preparation. I cleaned the beach house myself. I drove down on Thursday, alone. I scrubbed the floors. I washed the windows. I declined Mitchell's half-hearted offers to send a cleaning crew. I wanted to know every inch of the battlefield. I packed my sedatives in my toiletry case, right next to my moisturizer. I packed the legal documents in my laptop bag, under my notes on a patient. And I packed the rope. I went to the hardware store and bought a new, sealed package of thin, strong, nylon rope. I put it in the trunk of my car, hidden under the beach gear. Friday morning, back at home, we loaded the car. Mitchell got a text. He smiled when he read it. He didn't know I'd seen the screen light up with Audrey's name. Ready? He asked, sliding into the driver's seat. Everyone's meeting us there around 4. I buckled my seatbelt. I smoothed my sundress. I've been ready for this, I said, for quite some time. He turned to me then, his expression softening into that fake, loving look I now saw so clearly. You're amazing, you know that. Most wives would complain about hosting the entire family. I reached over and squeezed his hand. It took every ounce of my therapeutic training to make the gesture look warm. Trust me, I said. This is going to be a weekend none of us will ever forget. We arrived at the beach house just after noon on Friday. The familiar salt air, it should have been comforting. It always had been. Instead, it just felt heavy. Like the calm before a hurricane. Mitchell started carrying our bags inside. I'm going to run to the store, he called out, jangling his keys. Need to pick up ice and some extra drinks. Forgot the tonic water. Good idea, I said, not turning from my spot on the porch, where I was watching the waves. While you're at it, grab some fresh limes and mint for the mojitos. You got it. And take your time, I added. I want to get settled in before everyone arrives. 1. The second his car disappeared down the long, gravel driveway, I moved. I'd already stashed the legal documents in my bedside drawer, under my underwear. The sedatives were in my toiletry case, tucked behind my tampons. No one would look there. Now, it was time for the pool area. The pool chairs, they were my idea, 3 summers ago. Heavy, beautiful, teakwood chairs. Comfortable. And sturdy. Mitchell, always the practical one, had installed small, heavy-duty metal rings on their undersides. They were for securing them with cables during hurricane season. Tonight, those rings would serve a different purpose. I retrieved the nylon rope from my suitcase. I took my sharpest kitchen shears. I measured and cut 8 equal lengths. Not too long, not too short. Just right. I coiled each one neatly. I walked around the pool, to each of the 8 chairs I had arranged in a perfect, friendly semicircle. I tacked 1 coil of rope under the back of each seat cushion. Positioned strategically. To a casual glance, they were completely invisible. My phone rang. My private line. It was Arthur. 2. Just checking in, Caroline, he said. His voice was all business. Still on for tomorrow night? Everything's in place, I confirmed. I was already back in the kitchen, moving, unpacking groceries. You remember the service entrance? Behind the garage, through the hedge pathway. 9 p.m. sharp, he recited. And Caroline, the documents are ironclad. I've prepared individual packets. 3. He listed them off. The beach house transfer for Mitchell. The vacation property division for your in-laws. The investment account reallocation for Gregory and Sharon. The trust fund amendment for Keith and Diane. The revised inheritance statement for Aunt Helen. 4. And Audrey, my voice hardened. There was a pause. Her packet, he said, is comprehensive. Relinquishment of any claims to family assets. Agreement to vacate her condo, which is technically in your name, by the way, by the end of the month. And a legal acknowledgement of breach of familial trust. Perfect, I said. And they'll hold up? If they claim. Signed under duress isn't ideal, Arthur admitted, and I could hear the lawyer in him wincing. But we've structured them as voluntary settlements to avoid litigation. Once signed and notarized, which I am certified to do, they'll be very difficult to contest. Especially, he added, with 8 witnesses. 5. 8 very compliant witnesses, I said. Quite. See you tomorrow, Caroline. He hung up. I turned my attention to the cocktail station. This was my masterpiece. My art project. Each family member would get a personalized drink. A final, thoughtful gesture from the woman they'd collectively betrayed. As a therapist, I knew their preferences. But more importantly, I understood their psychological weaknesses. Barbara, the control freak? A crisp, controlled ginger peach martini. Walter, who avoided confrontation at all costs. A smoky old-fashioned. Complex, but ultimately smooth. Gregory, who feared public humiliation more than anything. A showy, layered tequila sunrise. Sharon, his wife, who just craved validation. A sweet, pink raspberry mojito. Keith, who prided himself on his intelligence. A complex bourbon sour. Diane, his wife, who was terrified of abandonment. A light, fizzy, safe cucumber gin fizz. Aunt Helen, who dreaded family conflict. A sweet, disarming spiked lemonade. And the 2 guests of honor? For Mitchell, a top-shelf whiskey with a splash of water. His standard. He wasn't special. And for Audrey, a passion fruit margarita with extra salt. Always her favorite. I laid out the elegant, expensive cocktail glasses. I lined up the premium liquors. I sliced fresh garnishes. And then, I took out the small, unmarked bottle. I carefully measured the fine, pale blue powder. I considered each person's approximate body weight, their known alcohol tolerance. I'd done my research. This was a science. I'd tested it on myself, in much smaller doses, with wine. I knew exactly how long it would take. Gradual, pleasant drowsiness, not sudden unconsciousness. 6. Mitchell returned, his arms full of ice bags and tonic water. Wow, he said, surveying my elaborate bar setup. Everyone's on their way. Gregory and Sharon hit traffic, but the others are about 30 minutes out. 7. I nodded, arranging lime wedges on a cutting board. I'll have appetizers and drinks ready when they arrive. You're really taking this hosting thing seriously, he commented. I looked up and gave him a genuine smile. For the first time in months, I wasn't lying. I just want everyone to feel special. Headlights swept across the living room. The first car. Barbara and Walter. Followed closely by Keith and Diane. Aunt Helen, looking frail, was with them. 8. Minutes later, Gregory and Sharon pulled in, complaining about the traffic. I watched from the patio. Mitchell was out front, greeting them, all big hugs and handshakes. So glad you could make it. And then, a final car. A little red compact. Audrey's. She hesitated before getting out. I watched her. She smoothed her hair, checked her reflection in the car window. Even in betrayal, my sister remained obsessed with appearances. I took a deep breath. I fixed my smile in place. And I stepped out onto the patio. Everyone! You made it! I'm so wonderful to have you all here. The hugs were a lot. So many fake, papery kisses on my cheek. So much false enthusiasm. Caroline, the house looks beautiful. Oh, that ocean air, I can breathe again. This is just what we needed. I noted it all. The nervous glances between Mitchell and Audrey. I noted the way Barbara squeezed my shoulder just a beat too long, her grip almost painful. So good to see you, dear. I noted how Gregory cleared his throat repeatedly whenever he spoke directly to me. All right, everyone. Mitchell announced, rubbing his hands together like a game show host. Gather on the patio. Caroline has prepared specialty cocktails for everyone. She's been practicing all week. There was a chorus of oohs and ahs. That's so thoughtful, Audrey said. She couldn't quite meet my eyes. She was looking at my hair, my necklace. You've always been the perfect hostess, sis. It's the least I can do, I replied, my voice warm as honey. After all, we're celebrating modern relationships, aren't we? A thick, charged silence fell over the group. It was just for a second. Mitchell laughed nervously. Right. Well, let's get those drinks started. I moved to the outdoor bar I'd set up. This was it. The curtain was going up. Okay, I announced, clapping my hands. I wanted to make this special, so I made everyone their favorite. One by one. Barbara, come on up. She approached, smiling. For you, a ginger peach martini. Crisp and controlled, just like you. I handed her the pre-prepared, chilled glass. Walter, a smoky old-fashioned. Complex, but ultimately smooth. He took it with a forced, appreciative smile. One by one, they came up. Gregory, a tequila sunrise, just for you. Sharon, your raspberry mojito. Keith, a perfect bourbon sour. Diane, a cucumber gin fizz, so refreshing. Aunt Helen, a spiked lemonade, sweet and simple. Then, Mitchell. I handed him his whiskey. Your usual, honey. And finally, Audrey. She came up, giving me that little half smile, the one that used to be our secret. What's mine, sis? A passion fruit margarita, I said, handing her the salt-rimmed glass. With extra salt. Just how you like it. I raised my own glass. A mocktail. Just cranberry juice and soda water. A toast, I said. My voice was clear and strong. It didn't shake. To family. And to all the secrets we keep for each other. Nervous laughter rippled through the group. Here, here. Cheers. Glasses clinked. And I watched. I watched as each, single, one, of them, took their first, long sip. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in those deep, bruised shades of purple and orange. It was beautiful, actually. I turned on the pool lights, which cast a soft, blue glow, and the patio lanterns. The ambience was perfect. Conversation resumed. It was tentative at first, you know? The way it always is. But then it started flowing more freely as the alcohol and, of course, the sedatives began to take effect. I just watched. I nursed my club soda. I was the perfect hostess. I brought out appetizers. I laughed at their jokes. Within an hour, I saw it. Barbara, blinking slowly. Her head nodded slightly as she was in the middle of a sentence, and she lost her train of thought. Walter's posture, always so rigid, so man of the house, had slackened. He was slumped in his chair. Diane. Diane was the first to speak. Whoa, she said, stifling a huge, open-mouthed yawn. Is anyone else feeling a bit tired? 9. Must be the ocean air, I said smoothly, gathering empty glasses. It always hits me hard, too, the first night. Yeah, Gregory mumbled, his words starting to slur just a little. That tequila, it went right to my head. Woo. Why don't we move down to the pool area? I suggested brightly. The chairs are much more comfortable down there, and the breeze off the water might help. Like sheep. Like trusting, groggy sheep, they all stood up, a little unsteadily. They followed me. Down the stone pathway to the pool deck, where 8 teak chairs were waiting in their perfect semicircle. They were still mobile. Still conscious. Just pliable. Groggy. Their judgment was impaired. Exactly as planned. I glanced at my watch. 8:40 p.m. 20 minutes until Arthur arrived. It was time. They settled into the pool chairs, their movements sluggish and uncoordinated. Mitchell slumped into the one closest to the empty fire pit. And, naturally, Audrey gravitated to the chair right beside him. Their not-so-subtle positioning. More drinks, anyone? I offered, collecting their glasses. Maybe just water for me, Diane mumbled, her words slurring together. Feeling a bit lightheaded. Me too, Sharon agreed, blinking slowly, like an owl. That mojito packed a punch. It's the ocean air, I said again, smiling. It intensifies the alcohol. I'll bring water for everyone. I retreated to the kitchen. I checked my watch again. 8:45, 15 minutes. Perfect timing. The sedative would be at its peak effectiveness right as he walked through the door. I filled a pitcher with ice water. I grabbed fresh glasses. I took my time. I rinsed a few dishes. I breathed. When I returned, the conversation, or what was left of it, had shifted. The sedatives were doing their other job, lowering inhibitions. Should we just tell her? Gregory slurred. He was loud. This whole, pretending thing, is ridiculous. 10. Gregory! Sharon hissed, glancing nervously at me as I set down the water tray. Shut up. Tell me what? I asked innocently. I poured him a glass of water. What's ridiculous, Gregory? 11. An awful, uncomfortable, heavy silence. Mitchell tried to straighten up in his chair. He looked puffy. Confused. Nothing, hon. He's had too much to drink. 12. Gregory laughed. A harsh, ugly, barking sound. Too much drink, too many secrets. He raised his new water glass unsteadily. Let's have another toast. Shall we? To modern love. His gaze moved pointedly. From Mitchell to Audrey. The implication hung in the air. Heavy. Unavoidable. Gregory, Barbara hissed, her voice sharp, but even she sounded tired. The damage was done. To modern love, I echoed. I raised my own glass. My voice was perfectly calm. And to honesty. Something, apparently, in short supply around here. Another awful silence. I saw Audrey's hands tremble as she sipped her water. Mitchell wouldn't look at me. Is it just me? Keith asked, his voice thick, rubbing his forehead, or is everyone feeling strange? Like, beyond regular drunk. 13. Maybe we all just need some fresh air, I suggested. I moved behind Diane's chair. Let's just enjoy the night breeze. It'll clear our heads. 14. As I said it, as I adjusted her cushion, my hand moved. Discreetly, silently. I pulled out the nylon rope I'd hidden earlier. In one smooth, practiced motion, I looped it through the metal hurricane ring beneath her chair. I looped it around her wrist. And I tied a quick, simple, very tight knot. She was too disoriented to even notice. Her head lolled slightly. Breeze sounds nice. The stars are so beautiful tonight, I remarked, moving to Keith's chair. I did the same. Loop, pull, knot. Don't you think, Audrey? My sister mumbled something incoherent. Her eyelids were heavy. I continued around the circle. Methodical. Practiced. I kept up the casual chatter. Such a clear night. You can see the Big Dipper. None of them were alert enough to realize what was happening. Gregory. Loop. Pull. Knot. Sharon. Loop. Pull. Knot. Barbara. Loop. Pull. Knot. Walter. Loop. Pull. Knot. Is it just me? Aunt Helen's voice was faint, or is everyone getting so sleepy? It's been a long day of travel, Auntie, I replied soothingly, securing her frail, paper-thin wrists. Just relax. Everything will make sense soon. 15. Mitchell was the last one. I leaned over him. His eyes were struggling to focus on my face. He smelled like whiskey and confusion. Caroline. He slurred. Something's wrong. I feel very drugged. I leaned in, my lips right next to his ear. And I whispered, as I pulled his knot tight. Tighter than the others. Perceptive as always, darling, I whispered. But about 14 months too late. 16. By 9 p.m. on the dot, all 8 of them were securely fastened to their chairs. Drifting. Groggy. Confused. I stepped back. I turned on the main pool floodlights, illuminating their slack, confused faces in a harsh, bright, unforgiving clarity. And then I heard it. A soft, polite, precise knock at the service entrance. Arthur had arrived. I let him in. He was all business, carrying a heavy leather briefcase. He wore a suit. Good evening, Caroline. Arthur. Thank you for coming. I led him through the quiet house and out onto the pool deck. He surveyed the scene. 8 adults, tied to pool chairs, in various states of semi-consciousness. To his credit, he barely blinked. He was a true professional. Everything is discussed? He asked quietly, setting his briefcase on a side table. Exactly as planned, I confirmed. The sedative is mild. They'll be coherent enough to understand and to sign. Good, Arthur said. He clicked open his briefcase and began arranging stacks of documents on the table. I've brought a recording device as well. For legal protection. Perfect. I took a seat in the 9th chair. The one I had placed for myself, at the head of their semicircle. The only one without restraints. And I waited. Mitchell was the first one to fully comprehend his situation. The adrenaline cut through his fog. He yanked at the ropes, his eyes wide with growing panic. What the hell, Caroline? He demanded, his voice hoarse. What is this? This isn't funny. Untie me right now. His shouting roused the others. One by one, they woke up. They looked down. They saw the ropes. They discovered their predicament. The reactions were varied. Diane started whimpering. What's going on? I'm scared. Barbara was all dignified, furious outrage. Caroline, this is insane. You've lost your mind. Gregory just kept testing the ropes, assessing. Nylon. Good knots. You drugged us, Keith stated. It was flat. His analytical mind, even in a fog, was putting the pieces together. 17. Yes, I acknowledged. My voice was calm. Professional, even. Nothing dangerous. Just something to ensure you all stay put for this conversation. This is illegal. Walter blustered, the lawyer in him kicking in, though his speech was slurred. This is unlawful restraint. Administering drugs without consent. Actually, Arthur interjected smoothly. He stepped into the light. Ms. Matthews consulted me precisely to ensure everything remained within legal boundaries. 18. The sedative is a mild, over-the-counter sleep aid. The restraints are merely to prevent accidental injury while you're impaired. No one is in any danger. Who is this? Barbara demanded. Arthur Levinson. Attorney at law. He calmly placed one of his business cards on each of their laps. I'm here to oversee some property transfers. And some settlement agreements. Settlement agreements? Mitchell's face drained of all color. He knew that term. Caroline. What is this? I stood up. I walked to the center of their circle. I finally dropped the therapist's voice. I let the cold rage I'd been holding for months come through. This, I said, my voice like ice, is the consequence. This is the consequence of collective betrayal. This is what happens when an entire family conspires to hide the truth from one of their own. I turned. I faced each of them. I made eye contact. Barbara and Walter. You learned about Mitchell and Audrey's affair over a year ago. I heard you whispering in my kitchen. Instead of telling me, your daughter-in-law, you protected your son. You enabled my sister. Keith and Diane. You knew 9 months ago. Keith saw the texts on a golf trip. You decided it wasn't your place to interfere. Keith looked away. Shame. Thick and heavy. Gregory and Sharon. You figured it out at Christmas. You saw them kissing in the garage, like teenagers. You decided it was complicated and not your business. Aunt Helen. I softened my voice, just a bit. You've known for at least 6 months. You saw them. You told yourself it wasn't your generation's place to comment on modern relationships. The elderly woman was weeping, silent tears streaming down her wrinkled face. And the two of you. I turned to them. My husband. My sister. The architect and the accomplice of my humiliation. Planning to ambush me this weekend. In my own home. Planning to announce your relationship to keep me from making a scene. Planning to try to take my house. The silence was absolute. Even the waves seemed to pause. How did you? Mitchell began, his voice a hoarse whisper. I'm a therapist who specializes in deception and betrayal, I cut him off. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't eventually see the signs? Read the texts? Find the hotel receipts? Read your emails? I nodded to Arthur. And now, we're going to have a different kind of announcement than the one you planned. Arthur cleared his throat. I have prepared a series of legal agreements. Upon signing, they will transfer full ownership of this beach house to Caroline Matthews, exclusively. Additional documents address the division of marital assets, transfer of all joint investment accounts, and termination of all joint property rights. This is insane. Mitchell sputtered, yanking at the ropes. We're not signing anything. You're crazy. 19. I smiled. A thin, cold smile. Then you are welcome to explain to the authorities, when they arrive, why 8 adults are sedated and restrained at your beach house. I'm sure the media would love that story. Prominent lawyer and his family involved in some kind of cult ritual? Or perhaps, I added, something more sordid. This is blackmail. Gregory yelled. No, I corrected. This is justice. You all participated in my humiliation. Now, you can participate in my liberation. I nodded to Arthur. He picked up the first packet, placed it on a clipboard, and held it in front of Barbara. Barbara, the former school principal who valued order and appearances above all else, her hand was trembling, but she took the pen. She signed. 20. Next, Walter. This won't hold up, he blustered, the lawyer fighting back. It's coercion. Duress invalidates. Walter, I interrupted. Your son was planning to take my half of this house. With your legal assistance. I have the emails. Sign the paper, or explain to your law partners why you were drugged and tied to a chair at your son's beach house. Your choice. He stared at me. His face was purple. He snatched the pen and signed. Gregory and Sharon signed quickly. They looked, almost relieved. As if being punished somehow absolved them. Keith hesitated, until Diane whispered, Just do it, Keith. Just sign it. He signed, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Aunt Helen wept as she signed, her arthritic hand moving slowly. I should have told you, dear, she cracked. I just didn't want to cause trouble. 21. Ironic, isn't it? I replied, not unkindly. Then, it was Audrey's turn. Arthur placed the thickest packet on her lap. Relinquishing the condo. Forfeiting her position as my healthcare proxy. Severing our financial and legal relationship. Caroline, please, she whispered, mascara streaked down her pale, puffy cheeks. Please, we're sisters. Were, I corrected. Sisters don't sleep with each other's husbands. I love him, she insisted, as if that explained everything. As if that excused everything. And I loved you, I replied simply. Sign the papers, Audrey. She did. Her signature was a messy, angry, childish scroll. Finally. Arthur presented the last clipboard to Mitchell. My husband. Soon-to-be ex-husband. He glared at me, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. You've lost your mind, he spat. I am not signing anything. I leaned in close. Very close. So only he could hear me. The thing about being a therapist, Mitchell, I whispered, is that people tell me things. All kinds of things. They confess. Like your client, Thomas Reeves. The one who confessed to tax fraud during your consultations. Or Catherine Wilson, whose offshore accounts you helped establish. I keep excellent notes, Mitchell. His face, it went ashen. All the blood just left. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? You spent 14 months betraying me. With my own sister. While our entire family watched and said nothing. You don't know me at all anymore. The pen shook in his hand. But he took it. And he signed. He signed all 3 documents. The beach house transfer. The divorce agreement. And the non-disclosure contract. Arthur, ever the professional, notarized each signature efficiently, stamping each one with a firm, final thud. He gathered the papers, placed them back in his briefcase, and snapped it shut. I'll file these first thing Monday morning, he informed me. Everything appears to be in order. 22. If you are still listening to this, please help me like this video and comment the number 1 below, so I know you are amazing, and I understand that you are on this journey with me. Your support is a huge encouragement for me. Please comment the number 1 so I can see you, and now, listen to what I did next. After Arthur left, through the service entrance, I faced my family again. The sedative was beginning to wear off. Their expressions were clearer. The full comprehension of what had just occurred, the finality of it, was dawning on them. What happens now? Diane asked quietly, her voice trembling. Are you going to leave us here all night? I shook my head. I went back to the kitchen and got the kitchen shears. And I began moving around the circle, cutting each person's restraints. No, I said, as I snipped the rope on Diane's wrist. You're all free to go. One by one, I cut them loose. The only sound was the snip, snip, snip of the shears and the quiet weeping of Aunt Helen. The effects of the sedative will wear off completely within the hour, I informed them, my voice professional again, like a doctor giving discharge instructions. I wouldn't recommend driving until morning, though. You'll want to sleep it off. I cut Mitchell loose last. He rubbed his wrists, glaring at me, red marks on his skin. So that's it, he demanded, his voice a low growl. You drug us, you blackmail us, you take everything, and you just walk away? I stepped back. I regarded him calmly. Not everything, I corrected him. Just what's rightfully mine. Plus, compensation for your betrayal. The divorce papers give you your clothes, your car, and your personal items. The rest, including your partnership share in the law firm, goes to me. You'll never get away with this, he growled. I already have, I said. I gestured toward the house. You all might want to gather your belongings. I expect this property vacated by noon tomorrow. 23. One by one, they shuffled toward the house. Unsteady, but moving under their own power. Defeated. Only Audrey remained. Still seated, though now unbound. You've thought of everything, she said softly. Her voice was dead. The perfect revenge. Not revenge, I corrected. Justice. There's a difference. She looked up at me then, her face a tear-stained, swollen wreck. Will you ever forgive me, Caroline? I actually considered her question. I thought about our childhood. I thought about our parents' funeral. I thought about the girl I loved. And I looked at the woman who had destroyed my life. No, I finally answered. I won't. But I will forget you. Which is a mercy you don't deserve. She nodded, tears flowing freely, and she finally stood up and followed the others inside. I remained by the pool. Alone. I watched the moonlight dance on the water's surface. And for the first time in 14 months, I felt like I could finally breathe. 3 weeks later, I signed the final paperwork, selling the beach house. The new owners were a young couple, expecting their first child. They were so starry-eyed and hopeful, it made my chest ache with both envy and nostalgia. "Congratulations," I told them, handing over the keys. "Make happy memories here." The money from the sale, and from the liquidation of our other assets, was transferred to my new, private account. I walked away from the closing and I didn't look back. The following day, I signed a lease on a new office space in a different part of town. It was twice the size of my previous practice. The sign I had installed above the door read, "Phoenix Therapy Services. Healing after betrayal." Mitchell had contested the divorce agreement, of course. His lawyer father, Walter, tried to fight it. They filed motions. But their objections were, quietly, withdrawn right after my lawyer, Arthur, had a private meeting with them. A meeting where, I'm told, he delivered copies of those client files I'd mentioned. The law firm conducted a quiet internal investigation. It resulted in Mitchell's voluntary resignation. Last I heard, he and Audrey had moved to Arizona. He's trying to rebuild his practice and his reputation. Good luck with that. The others, they scattered. They're still a family, I suppose, but family gatherings are probably pretty awkward these days. Barbara, my old mother-in-law, she called once. Left a long, rambling voicemail that was half apology, half justification. I deleted it without listening to the end. 6 months after that night at the beach house, I sat in Dr. Eleanor Winter's office. Therapists need therapists, too. Especially after orchestrating something like that. "How are you feeling about it all, Caroline?" she asked, her kind eyes studying me carefully. I considered the question. "Balanced," I said finally. "What I did was extreme. I know that. But so was their betrayal. Sometimes, justice requires dramatic measures. Do you regret any of it?" I shook my head. I regret that it was necessary. I regret trusting people who didn't deserve my trust. I regret the years I lost. But the actions themselves? They were calculated choices. They were not emotional reactions. They were survival. She nodded thoughtfully. "And your new practice? It's thriving?" I smiled. "A real one, this time." "Turns out," I said, "there's no shortage of people dealing with betrayal. I understand them, in ways other therapists can't." "Because you've been there," she said. "Because I've been there," I corrected, "survived it, and reclaimed my power. That's what I offer them. Not just sympathy. A pathway forward." As I left her office for the last time, stepping out into the bright, clear afternoon sunlight, I realized something. That night at the beach house, it hadn't just been about punishing those who betrayed me. It had been about reclaiming myself from the ashes of their deception. My phone chimed. A calendar alert. My first afternoon client was arriving. A woman, whose husband and best friend had been having an affair for years, while their entire social circle looked the other way. I smiled slightly. I walked to my office door. I knew exactly what to say. Some might call what I did to my family revenge. Others might label it justice. The line between the two is blurry. What matters is that I walked through fire and I emerged. Stronger. Wiser. And finally, free. They all knew my husband was sleeping with my sister, and they all paid the price for their silence. As for me, I'd already paid mine. Now, it was time to build something new from the ruins. Sometimes, the most important relationship to salvage is the one you have with yourself. Thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. It means more than you know to finally say it all out loud. If any part of this resonated with you, if you've ever felt that sting of betrayal, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video. And please, share your thoughts in the comments below. I read them. I really do. It helps to know we're not alone in this. I'll see you next time.